My name is Holly. Standing backstage at this MIT conference, the thunderous applause echoing off the walls, I'm reminded of the long journey that brought me here. It's a journey marked by silence, betrayal, and ultimately, self-discovery. A few months ago, the auditorium was filled with students, alumni, and faculty. I was about to take the stage as the keynote speaker for Women in Innovation. As I took a deep breath and stepped into the light, I used to think success meant being seen. But sometimes, the ones who should have seen you first never do. So, you build your own mirror. The room fell silent, and I could feel the weight of my words. I told them about failure, resilience, and the strange freedom that comes when you stop chasing people who only love the version of you that serves them. I didn't need to name names. Everyone in that audience knew exactly who I was talking about. After the speech, students lined up to meet me, clutching notebooks, resumes, and hope. One girl with trembling hands whispered, "My parents missed my graduation, too. Thank you for making me feel less invisible." I smiled and said, "You're not invisible. You're just waiting to stand in your own light." Later, when the hall emptied, I walked through the campus courtyard. The same wind that once carried my tears now carried peace. But then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom, "We're in town. Can we see you?" I looked at the glowing screen for a moment, then powered the phone off. Some stories don't need sequels. I looked up at the bronze plaque on the wall, engraved with my name under Distinguished Alumni. I touched the cold metal and whispered, "You missed this, too." Let me rewind to a few weeks before this conference. My assistant, Lily, peeked into my office. "Holly, the press email about your AI project. Do you want me to forward it to you?" I was surprised. A feature request from the MIT Alumni Network wanted to highlight my work. They'd tried contacting my family for comment, but got no response. The irony was palpable. They hadn't celebrated my success back then, but now the world wanted to. I told Lily to send it. That evening, I drafted a statement, "To every student whose achievements were met with silence, build anyway. Some applause comes late, some never comes, but your work is still worthy." 2 days later, the article was published with the headline, "MIT grad turned CEO inspires with message about unseen daughters." The comments poured in. Women from everywhere shared stories of being overlooked, undervalued, unseen. For the first time, my name wasn't attached to pain, it was attached to purpose. But along with the congratulations came another email. The subject line read, "Your parents reached out." It was from the journalist who'd written the story. They asked for a correction, claiming they'd supported my journey and that my quote was taken out of context. I laughed under my breath. Public shame was the one language they understood. That evening, as the sun bled into the skyline, I sat on my apartment balcony with my laptop open and drafted a response. Not angry, not bitter, just true. The story is accurate. The silence happened. The lesson remains, love that demands performance isn't love, it's control. The journalist replied within minutes, saying my words stood. The next morning, the article update trended again. Holly responds with quiet grace. My name sat under the phrase, 2 words no one in my family had ever used for me. That night, a message came in from an unknown number, "We didn't realize what we lost until the world saw you." It was Mom. I stared at it for a long moment before deleting it without reply. Now, let's go back even further, to a cousin's wedding. I received an invitation that read, "Family only." I laughed. Family, a word that once meant obligation, was now a scar that had finally healed. But my aunt, Mrs. Thompson, called me crying. "Please, Holly. It would mean so much if you came." So, I came for her, not for them. As I walked into the ballroom, the laughter and perfume hit me like a shock. Champagne glasses clinked, camera flashes sparkled, and there they were. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, still polished, still pretending. Dad's hair was grayer, and Mom's pearls were brighter. My sister, Lucy, stood beside them, holding a new diamond on her finger and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. They didn't notice me at first. It was almost peaceful, watching them from across the room. I realized how small their world had become, a performance held together by denial. Then Mom turned. Her eyes caught mine and froze, wide with disbelief. "Holly?" Her lips mouthed silently. I nodded once, no wave, no smile, just recognition. Across the ballroom, Dad's laughter faltered. Lucy's hand tightened around her champagne flute. 5 years of silence condensed into one electric heartbeat. I didn't go to them. I just stood still, the ghost they created finally solid again. And from that distance, I realized the truth. They hadn't skipped my graduation, they'd forfeited my life. The ballroom smelled of roses and old money, expensive, rehearsed, and painfully familiar. My cousin's wedding had the kind of perfection Mom always craved. Coordinated dresses, gold-rimmed plates, and conversations polished to sound effortless. I stayed near the back, clutching a flute of sparkling water, invisible as ever. 5 years ago, I had stood on a different stage, holding my MIT diploma, waiting for the pride and support that never came. They were too busy posing for Lucy's engagement photos. Lucy was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. That day, I blocked their numbers. No goodbye, no drama, just silence. Now, the silence was broken by my aunt's cheerful voice. "Holly, you made it," she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like perfume and nostalgia. "Your mom's been hoping to see you." "Has she?" I asked softly. "She's been regretful," she offered, eyes darting toward the head table. Mom sat there, back straight, face stiff. Dad leaned close to whisper something, and Lucy, still glowing, still adored, laughed too loudly. They hadn't changed. The air around them still bent toward performance. I excused myself and walked outside to the terrace. The night air was cold, but honest. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over an old text thread labeled family. It was empty. No messages since the day I deleted them. Behind me, I heard footsteps. "Holly?" Dad's voice, older, rougher, almost human. I turned slowly. 5 years, I said. "That's how long it took you to notice." He swallowed hard. "We thought you needed space." "No," I replied quietly. "You needed attention. You just couldn't share it." The music swelled inside, muffled through the glass doors. For the first time, I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter. I felt like the one who finally left the stage. He stood there awkwardly, hands shoved in his pockets, the same posture he used when guilt crept in. "Your mother wanted to reach out," he said, "but she didn't know how." I tilted my head. "You both managed to plan an entire engagement party on the same day I graduated MIT. I'm sure communication isn't the problem." His mouth opened, then closed again. "We didn't realize how much that hurt you." I let out a quiet laugh. "You didn't realize because you didn't look, because her ring mattered more than my degree." For a moment, he seemed smaller, like the man who used to build science projects with me in the garage, back before image swallowed sincerity. "You're right," he whispered. "We failed you." Just then, Lucy appeared, radiant in her champagne dress. "Dad," she called, stepping onto the terrace. Then she froze. "Oh." Her tone dropped flat. "You came." "I was invited," I said. She smiled thinly. "By mistake, I assume." Dad sighed. "Girls, please, not tonight." I turned to her. "You look happy." "I am," she said, though her eyes betrayed exhaustion. "You still working in Boston?" "I run my own firm now," I replied, AI consulting. Her smile faltered. "Oh." Silence spread like fog. She looked at Dad for rescue, but he had none left to give. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. Don't worry, I didn't come to ruin your perfect evening. I just came to return what you left behind. I pulled out the sealed envelope I'd brought for years, unopened and waiting for this moment. Her face paled. What is that? Closure, I said, placing it in her hand. The envelope trembled in her hand. I'd sealed it 5 years ago, on the night I packed my diploma, moved out of Boston, and promised myself never to explain again. What's inside? She asked cautiously. The speech I was supposed to give at graduation, I said. The one you told Mom was a waste of time compared to your engagement toast. Her lips parted, guilt flickering for a second before pride smothered it. Holly, that was years ago. And I still remember every word, I interrupted, my voice calm. I wrote about resilience, about family, about believing in people even when they don't believe in you. You should have heard the applause. Dad looked away, eyes glistening in the low terrace light. Why bring this now? Lucy whispered. Because you never asked what you missed, and I needed you to know that I made it without your cheers. Behind the glass, the wedding reception carried on. Music, laughter, the illusion of love. Mom appeared suddenly at the doorway, her pearls catching the light. Holly, she said breathless, your aunt said you were here. We should talk. I think you've said enough, I replied quietly. You just didn't realize what it cost. She reached for my arm. Don't make a scene. I smiled faintly. I stopped performing 5 years ago. Her grip loosened, the same way her control always did when I refused to play my role. I turned toward the ballroom, where the lights glimmered across crystal chandeliers. Enjoy the show, I said softly. I'm leaving early this time. I walked out into the cold night, my heels echoing against the marble floor. Each step was a reminder that freedom sounds nothing like applause. Outside, the parking lot glowed under string lights, wedding laughter trailing faintly through the glass doors behind me. I leaned against my car, the night air cool against my skin, and finally exhaled. 5 years of distance, and still the ache found its way back. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You didn't have to humiliate her. She's your sister. I didn't need to guess it was Mom. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen before typing back. You humiliated me first. I just finally stopped participating. I slipped the phone into my clutch and looked up at the stars. They reminded me of that night in Cambridge, standing on the MIT rooftop with classmates as the city glowed below us. Everyone's families had been there, cameras flashing, parents crying. Everyone except mine. That night, I'd walked back to my dorm, wrote, "Congratulations, you did this alone" on a sticky note, and pinned it above my desk. It stayed there for years. A voice broke my thoughts. Holly? It was my cousin, Emily, the bride. I saw you leave. Are you okay? I nodded. Just needed air. I'm glad you came, she said softly. They should be, too. She hugged me, simple and honest, before heading back inside. For the first time all night, I smiled, not because I'd won anything, but because someone saw me without condition. The ballroom music swelled again behind me. I wasn't going back in. Some doors, once closed, don't need reopening. The next morning, my phone buzzed non-stop. Missed calls, voicemails from Mom, Dad, and Lucy, all stacked one after another like echoes of a past I'd outgrown. I made coffee and let them play out on speaker while I watered the plants in my apartment. Mom first. You embarrassed your family, Holly. Do you even understand what you've done? Dad next. You could have handled that privately. You made your mother cry. And then Lucy, voice soft but venom-laced. You've always needed attention. Congrats, you got it. I shut the phone off. The plants didn't care who'd skipped my graduation. They just needed sunlight and water, simple, consistent things my family never offered. As I look back on all these events, I realize that their absence was the cost of my becoming. I've built my own mirror, and I'm shining in my own light.